After my promotion, I invited my family to celebrate. No one came. A week later, my mom asked for $2. 4K for my dad's retirement party. I sent a single penny and cut ties. The next day, police were banging on my door. Alright, Reddit, what I'm about to tell you still feels unreal. And even now I can't wrap my head around how any of it actually happened, so settle in because this one's a ride. Late August, I, Nora, 33, female, finally landed the promotion I'd been busting my tail for. Senior Director of Operations. Bigger paycheck, actual authority. A corner office with windows that didn't stare straight into another concrete wall. The whole dream package. For once, I felt like all the years of grinding finally meant something. The announcement happened during an all-hands meeting with the CEO shaking my hand in front of about 200 people. Folks I barely recognized were patting me on the back, grabbing free lunch with me, and my face even ended up in the company newsletter. I shot off a group text to my family with a big news message, expecting at least one call, but nobody replied. I figured maybe they were busy. Spoiler, they absolutely were not. Afterward, my boss Grant pulled me aside and told me, "Nora, you earned this. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for succeeding." And that stuck with me. I wanted a real celebration. Not some stiff corporate happy hour where everyone pretends they're thrilled while scrolling through their phones. I wanted to celebrate with the people who were supposed to matter. I booked this great Italian place downtown called Marino's and snagged their private dining room in the back. Perfect for around 15 people. I dropped a $400 deposit, ordered appetizers and some nice non-alcoholic drinks, and invited my mom, my dad, my older sister Megan, my younger brother Tyler, my mentor Dennis, a few coworkers, and 3 college friends I still kept up with. I sent everything out 2 weeks ahead, crystal clear details, and I saw the read receipts. My mom even sent celebration emojis. Megan sent something unusually heartfelt about being proud of me. Tyler gave a thumbs up. Dad stayed silent, which was normal since he treats texting like deciphering ancient runes. All week leading up to it, I was genuinely excited, so excited I practiced a toast in my car like a giant nerd. On the day of the dinner, I got there at 6:30 to make sure everything looked right. The private room looked amazing. The table was decorated, sparkling cider was chilling, and the manager, Sergio, kept congratulating me even though he had no idea the night was about to crash and burn. By 7:12 p.m. Nobody. I sent a cheerful group text saying I was there whenever they arrived. More read receipts. No responses. By 8:12, I was sipping sparkling water while Sergio dropped off breadsticks. At 8:30, my coworkers bailed by text, my college friends ghosted, and Dennis called to say his wife was in the hospital. The only real excuse anyone had. By 9:10, I sat there eating calamari alone while Sergio suggested they might have mixed up the date, but we both knew that wasn't true. A young waitress even gave me this look of genuine pity that almost broke me, like she was staring at a drenched stray mutt on the side of the road. Around 9:30, I told them to cancel the entrees and just charge me for what I'd eaten. I left a $100 tip because Sergio had sat with me out of sheer sympathy, and he even tried to refuse it. I told him, "You spent 20 minutes keeping me company when you should have been running your place. That's worth $100. I drove home in total silence with my phone sitting on the passenger seat, untouched. No missed calls, no texts, no apologies, nothing. Just me and my thoughts, which is never a great combination. That night, I lay in bed trying to think up any possible explanation. An emergency, a misunderstanding, something. But the idea that maybe I just wasn't worth showing up for wedged itself into my brain and wouldn't let go. Over the next few days, nobody said a word. Then Thursday, Tyler finally texted, "Hey sis, sorry about Saturday. Something came up. Congrats on the promotion though." That was it. Something came up. Like I'd invited him to a dull errand instead of celebrating 6 years of climbing the ladder. The silence from everyone else made it feel like the dinner never even existed. I had no clue the universe was gearing up to hit me even harder. 9 days after that disaster, during a budget review meeting, my phone started buzzing from the family chat. I almost ignored it but gave in to curiosity, and then I saw my mom's message. She was announcing my dad's retirement weekend next month at the Grand Palm Resort, with ocean view rooms, private beach access, catered dining, live band, the whole luxury lineup. Then she dropped the bomb. The cost per person was $2,400 and we were expected to Venmo her by Wednesday. I honestly thought she was joking. $2,400 each for a retirement party, less than 2 weeks after they all blew off my celebration for free? The guts on these people. Megan instantly replied saying she already sent the money and Dad deserved it, then posted a selfie at brunch talking about treating herself before the big weekend. Apparently she had cash for bottomless mimosas and a resort getaway, but not for simply showing up to a dinner I had already paid for. Dad chimed in with the classic fake modesty routine. "You kids don't have to do this," immediately followed by, "But it means the world to me. Can't wait to celebrate with my family." Like he was reading from a script. Guess that family didn't include me, unless they needed my wallet. I'd seen this whole dramatic performance so many times it might as well have been a Broadway show. Dad could have snagged a Tony for that guilt trip he pulled. And I was sitting there in that conference room totally spaced out while our CFO droned on about Q3 projections, so out of it that the guy beside me had to nudge me twice and ask, "Nora, you good?" I nodded like everything was fine and pretended to scribble notes even though my brain was nowhere in that room. My phone kept buzzing as more relatives piled into the chat, an aunt announcing she'd already booked her flight, an uncle asking what he should wear, cousins I hadn't heard from in forever suddenly popping and acting thrilled, everyone except my brother Tyler. He hadn't said a single word. Just me and him, an empty stretch of silence. I excused myself from the meeting, went straight to my office, shut the door, and stared at that group chat like it was some kind of twisted joke. My assistant knocked to see if I needed anything, and I told her to hold all calls and wipe my afternoon clean. That's when something shifted in my brain. This weird cold clarity, like realizing you've been playing a game that was stacked against you from the start. I opened Venmo and sent my mom exactly 1 cent, one lonely penny, with a note that said, "Here's my contribution, enjoy the party." If they wanted to run their little show I'd play too, but under my rules. And I wasn't messing around anymore. Then I did something I'd been wanting to do for months but never had the nerve. I blocked every single family number. Mom, Dad, Megan, all the extended relatives who joined in the endless guilt parade. The only one I didn't block was Tyler. Hitting that block button felt like dropping a 50-pound backpack I'd been carrying for years. 15 people gone in 2 minutes. Honestly felt like therapy, and if I could have billed my insurance for it I would have. But I didn't stop there. I spent the next 3 hours on the phone untangling my life from theirs. I called the bank and had them remove my parents from an old joint account we'd opened back when they needed help. Then I moved every dime I had to a different bank altogether. And their mortgage, God, their mortgage. 8 years ago, when they bought the house, their credit was so awful they couldn't qualify, and I was 25 with clean credit and steady income. Dad convinced me to sign as a co-owner just for a year or two, so they could get approved, promising they'd refinance me off quick. That was 8 years back, and shocker, they never refinanced anything. My name was still on that deed, which legally made me a 1/3 owner. I called the mortgage company and told them to freeze all changes unless I provided a physical signature. Then I realized I was listed as an authorized user on 3 of their credit cards and pulled myself off every single one. The customer service rep even asked, "Ma'am, are you sure you want to close this? It's been active 8 years." I'd never been more certain of anything. After that, I changed the locks on my apartment, updated every password, enabled 2-factor authentication on everything, and switched my security questions from sentimental details to random strings stored in a password manager. They couldn't guilt, manipulate, or socially engineer their way into a single corner of my life anymore. Felt incredible. I went home that night and felt lighter than I had in ages, made dinner, watched a movie, slept like a rock. And for exactly 1 day, everything was calm. Just peace. No demands. No emotional traps. No crisis lurking around the corner. Then reality caught up. Tuesday night, while I was making dinner, someone started pounding on my door. Not knocking, but pounding like they were trying to break in or the police were serving a warrant. I looked through the peephole and saw Megan, her face bright red and twisted into that furious expression she used to get right before she blew up. I thought about pretending I wasn't home, but the pounding kept getting louder. My neighbor across the hall cracked his door open, looking worried. I waved him off like everything was fine even though it totally wasn't. I opened the door just a crack with the chain still latched. "What?" I asked. She looked like she was about to explode, practically steaming. "You send Mom 1 cent like some kind of jerk joke and then block everyone. What is wrong with you?" "Nothing," I said. I just stopped being your personal problem solver. You're being a child, she snapped. This is Dad's retirement. He's worked his whole life and deserves a real celebration, and you're making it all about you. I actually laughed. Making it about me? You mean like when I invited all of you to celebrate the biggest achievement of my career, and literally nobody showed up? She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd fall out. Oh my God, you're still hung up on that? It was just a dinner, Nora. Get over it. Just a dinner? Okay, then Dad's retirement is just a party. He can get over me not being there. She threw her hands up. That's totally different. How? I asked. Because Dad actually matters, she yelled. Because he sacrificed everything for us, and the least you could do is show up and help pay for one party. She was shouting loud enough to wake up half the building. And I'm pretty sure my neighbor Carl was watching like it was primetime TV. But no, she went on. You have to be selfish and make everything about your stupid feelings. I started closing the door. We're done. She jammed her foot in the doorway and she was wearing heels, so that must have hurt like hell. You think you're better than us, don't you? She hissed. With your fancy promotion and fancy apartment. You're still the same scrawny kid who needed Dad to bail her out. Dad hasn't bailed me out since I was 19, I said. But I've bailed him out 17 times in the last 5 years. I counted. That's what family does, she shot back. Well, I said, I'm not your ATM anymore, Meg. Figure it out. Then I slammed the door hard enough that she had to yank her foot back unless she wanted to lose toes. She stayed out there screaming for another 2 minutes before finally storming off. Heard her kick my door on the way out, which was incredibly mature of her. And I went back to eating my lukewarm pasta while listening to her car screech out of the lot, like she thought she was auditioning for a Fast and Furious reboot. About 20 minutes later my neighbor Carl knocked. Retired cop, solid guy. Everything okay? Heard some shouting. I told him it was just family drama, nothing dangerous, and he gave this slow understanding nod. Family's the worst sometimes. They know exactly where to hit you. If you need anything, I'm in 3B. Then he added, and hey, congrats on the promotion. Which honestly meant more than anything my family had said in months. A guy I barely knew cared more than the people who shared my DNA. Let that sit with you for a minute. My phone started lighting up again with numbers I didn't recognize, and I knew exactly what was happening. My family was borrowing other people's phones. I let every call go to voicemail. 3 calls. 3 voicemails. Didn't listen to a single one. Then came the texts, messages from numbers I'd never seen, but I didn't need caller ID to know who was behind them. My mother claiming she didn't understand how I could do this to them. Accusations that I was tearing the family apart over money. Tugs at the heartstrings about my dad being devastated and convinced he'd failed as a father. I blocked each new number like I was playing some twisted version of whack-a-mole. By the end of the night my personal high score was 23 blocked numbers. Then my phone rang from the one number I hadn't blocked, Tyler. Picked up. Hey sis, he said quietly. You okay? I told him I was fine and asked about him. They're losing it over here, he said. Mom's crying, Dad's pacing holes in the floor, and Megan keeps yelling about how ungrateful you are. I told them they brought it on themselves, that you've been keeping them afloat financially for years and they couldn't even show up to your dinner. I paused. How'd that land? Dad told me to get out if I was going to defend you, he said, and I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. So I'm at a Denny's eating terrible pancakes and texting you. I actually laughed. He told me not to apologize, it needed to happen. Then he added, I don't know what your plan is, but whatever it is, I'm not talking you out of it. You've taken enough crap from them. I thanked him, and then he dropped something that made my stomach tighten. Also, heads up, Mom tried to get into the joint account. Bank called her and told her access was gone. She's planning something. She had that look. What look? I asked. The look she gets right before she does something manipulative and reckless. Remember when she showed up at your job? I did remember, clear as day. 3 years ago, I'd refused to fund one of their vacations, and she showed up at my office building in tears, telling every passerby that I was abandoning the family until I was so embarrassed I wrote her a check just to shut it down. Peak manipulation. Yeah, I said. I remember. Just be careful, he warned. Desperate people do stupid things. And he wasn't wrong. 2 hours later, another knock sounded, this time 2 police officers standing at my door. Turns out that when my family can't guilt trip me, they escalate. At least the cops were polite. They said they'd received a wellness check request because my family claimed I was missing, unreachable, possibly in danger or having some kind of mental breakdown. I nearly laughed but held it together. Officers, I'm perfectly fine, I explained. I blocked them because they've been financially draining me for years. They exchanged this knowing look like they'd seen this exact scenario 50 times. The shorter one asked if I was making these choices of my own free will, and not in distress. I confirmed everything, showed ID, answered their mental state questions. The taller officer walked through my place with me and noticed my work awards and the framed promotion certificate on my desk. Congrats on the promotion, he said. Thanks, I replied. Funny enough, that's what kicked this all off. When he asked how, I gave the quick version, invited my family to celebrate, they all bailed, then demanded money for a different party. I cut them off and now they were retaliating. Both officers nodded like it all finally clicked. They verified I was safe and asked if I wanted to file a complaint for the false wellness check. I passed for the moment but told them if it kept happening, I'd pursue a restraining order. After they left, I installed security cameras, one at my door, one pointing at the parking lot, another angle for good measure, and put up a video doorbell. Cost me about $400 but sent alerts straight to my phone. Things escalated, I wanted evidence. Maybe someday I'd make a documentary. The next morning I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 texts, all from unfamiliar numbers. Deleted everything unread. Work became my safe zone, first in, last out. My boss Grant checked in and I told him I was handling some family stuff. He left it there. Then the real chaos began. Someone tried logging into my bank account. Failed. Someone tried resetting my password. Blocked. Someone attempted to use my debit card at a gas station 3 states away. Declined. Someone tried applying for a personal loan with my social security number. Flagged as fraud. By then I wasn't even shocked, just annoyed and mildly impressed by the dedication. I drove straight to my bank. The manager, Patty, pulled up my account and her eyebrows shot up. Ms. Brennan, someone's been extremely busy trying to break into your finances today. We've blocked everything, but you need to freeze your credit immediately. Can you tell where the attempts came from? I asked. She clicked around. Login attempts were from an IP address in your hometown. The loan application lists a co-applicant. She stopped, looked at me. A Megan Brennan. Related to you? My sister, I said. Patty's expression shifted from concern to outright anger. The bank manager looked me dead in the eye and said, I'm going to recommend you file a police report for identity theft and attempted fraud. This is way past family drama. This is federal crime territory. She printed every attempted transaction, highlighted the shady ones, and handed me a neat stack of paperwork. I suddenly felt like I was holding evidence for a full Law and Order episode. I went straight to the police station, filed a report, gave them Megan's full info, and laid out the whole mess. The detective taking my statement didn't even flinch. Family fraud is more common than you'd think, he said. And it's harder to prosecute, because courts don't love throwing relatives in jail. But we'll open an investigation. Just keep documenting everything, every call, every text, every attempt. If this tips into stalking or harassment, we'll need that paper trail. Walking out with that report in my hand, I made a decision that was going to flip everything upside down. I called my lawyer Mark, the guy who'd handled my condo paperwork, because it was time to go nuclear and I finally had the launch codes. Mark listened quietly while I walked him through it all, the years of helping out. The night my promotion dinner turned into a solo pity party, the $2,400 demand for Dad's retirement bash, the blocks, the fraud attempts, every ugly piece. Nora, what exactly do you want here? He finally asked. I want out of every financial tie with my family, I said. And I want back every dollar they owe me. He warned me that would be tough to prove without receipts. I told him I had receipts, bank statements, Venmo records, text screenshots with money requests, 6 years worth. He paused. How much are we talking about? I don't know yet, I said. That's why I need you. I want a full accounting of every dime I've given them. He told me it would take time and cost me billable hours. I don't care, I said. Do it. Mark started on his end and I started on mine. I spent an entire weekend glued to my laptop, combing through every bank statement, each Venmo payment, every transfer, every guilt-laced text where they'd begged for just a little help. I built a giant spreadsheet, dates, amounts, reasons they'd given, who asked, who benefited. Laying it all out like that snapped everything into focus. I wasn't their daughter or their sister. I was an ATM they trained with tears, guilt, and silence. The pattern was glaring once I saw it on the screen. Mom's crying that shut off like a faucet the second I hit send. Megan's lectures about family loyalty, while she posted beach selfies from trips I unknowingly funded. Dad's disappointed quiet that magically vanished as soon as a check cleared. It was all there in black and white and way too many red numbers. 6 years. Hundreds of transactions. Each one following the same play. Crisis, guilt, money, then silence until the next crisis. Rinse and repeat until your savings account looks like a chalk outline. I added everything up: mortgage payments, Dad's truck note, Megan's wedding that somehow turned into my financial responsibility, Mom's emergency medical bill that turned out to be for cosmetic work because apparently Botox is a life or death situation, Tyler's state college tuition, the only line item I didn't begrudge, credit cards I'd paid off for them, car repairs, bail money, legal fees, vacation deposits, you name it. The total: $375,000. I stared at that number until my eyes burned. That was a house. That was retirement. That was my entire financial future, siphoned off because I was scared to say no and too blind to see the pattern. I called Mark as soon as I could talk without my voice shaking. "I've got a number," I said. "How bad is it?" he asked. $375,000, I answered. There was just silence. Then, "Jesus, Nora." "Yeah," I said. "Email me everything," he told me. "I'll confirm it and we'll figure out next steps." He went through it all with his own audit and called me later that week. "Nora, I've checked everything. Your documented losses are $375,000. It's solid, it's provable, and frankly it's jaw-dropping. But here's the problem. Most of these look like gifts, not loans. A court isn't going to be eager to force repayment. What if I can show they were coerced?" I asked. "That I was manipulated and guilt?" He said that angle was harder but not impossible, especially now that there was an active fraud attempt on record, which showed they planned to keep milking me. Then he added, "There is another option. You're still a co-owner on their house, right? Your name's on the title?" "Yeah," I said. "Has been for 8 years. You can file for a partition sale," he explained. "They'd either have to buy you out or sell the house and split proceeds according to ownership shares." The idea clicked into place instantly. "Perfect," I said. "How fast can we start?" "I can file the paperwork tomorrow," he replied. "But Nora, this is the nuclear button. Once you do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with your parents is done." "That relationship ended a long time ago," I said. "This just makes it official." "All right," he said. "I'll draft the partition action." But I wasn't finished. If I was going to burn the bridge, I wanted to make sure it lit up the whole sky. I thought back to that retirement party demand, the $2,400 they expected from me to celebrate a man who couldn't bother to show up to my own milestone. I had Mark set up a new email address just for legal stuff. Then I wrote an email to the entire family. Subject line: Invoice for outstanding debts, payment required. In the body I wrote, "Please find attached a detailed accounting of all financial support provided to the Brennan family from 2018 to 2024, totaling $375,000. Payment in full is expected within 90 days. Failure to pay will result in legal action, including but not limited to forced sale of property, wage garnishment, and liens on all vehicles and assets." This is not a negotiation. I attached the 47-page spreadsheet with every transaction highlighted and categorized, color-coded by family member, plus a chart showing how the requests ramped up over time. I hit send at 7 a.m. On a Monday. Mark said it would land like a bomb. Turned out he was being modest. Dad was the first to call. I let it go to voicemail. The message was just heavy breathing. Then came the next message from Dad. "You have lost your dang mind." And he hung up. Megan texted me from yet another new number, spitting venom about how I was trying to ruin the whole family over hurt feelings, calling me a pathetic a-hole like that was going to magically change my mind. My mom's voicemail had the full dramatic soundtrack. Sobbing, trembling voice, the whole routine. Nora, sweetheart, please, we can fix this. You don't mean it. We're your family. Call me back. I'd heard that performance so many times I could probably recite it backward. Normally it ended with me handing over money just to make the noise stop. Not this time. I ignored every single one of them. Let them sweat. Let them figure out I wasn't bluffing. They were going to cycle through every manipulation tactic they had, and I wasn't taking the bait. The forced sale paperwork went through, and suddenly my parents had 60 days to either buy me out at fair market value or list the house. Mark estimated my share at around $180,000. They needed that in cash or they'd have to sell. And they absolutely didn't have it. Shocking, I know. They tried to refinance. Denied. Credit was trashed. Debt-to-income ratio a disaster. They tried for a personal loan. Denied again. They even tried going through a predatory lender, but I blocked it because as a co-owner, my signature was required for any changes. Reality finally cornered them. They listed the house 3 weeks later. Price so ridiculously high out of spite that it sat untouched for 2 weeks because no one is paying top dollar for a basic 3-bedroom in the suburbs. Their realtor, on Mark's instruction, told them to drop the price or face a court-ordered auction, which would net them even less. They lowered it and got an offer within days below asking but still workable. Closing was set for 45 days out. I heard everything through Mark, and through Tyler, who was staying with a friend to avoid the chaos. Every Thursday we'd meet up at a quiet little cafe, and he'd give me updates like he was reporting on some tragic reality show with terrible life choices. One afternoon he stirred his coffee and said, "Mom's losing it. Like actually losing it. She called bawling about how you're destroying the family legacy." I reminded her the legacy is a house they couldn't afford and a lifestyle paid for by guilt-tripping their kids. She hung up. "How's Dad?" I asked. "Quiet," he said. "Just sits in his recliner staring at the wall. Honestly kinda unsettling." Megan tried to get him to fight back, file some countersuit or something, but he won't even respond. Then he added, "And Megan, she's off the rails. Tried setting up a GoFundMe claiming you robbed the family and left them homeless. I reported it and they took it down." I smirked. "Good work. She's calling every relative we know," he continued. "Telling them you've always been jealous and this is revenge for being the less successful kid." I laughed out loud. "I'm literally the only one with a career." "Yeah," he said. "Nobody believes her. Aunt Linda told her to get a job. Uncle Paul said he warned Dad years ago about draining you dry. Most of the family's either on your side or staying out of it." Tyler went quiet for a minute. "Mom tried to get me to talk you down. Said I'm the only one you'd listen to. Wanted me to convince you to drop everything." "What did you tell her?" "I told her she had 6 years to treat you like family instead of an ATM. That ship sailed." That right there was why I loved my brother. Meanwhile, their stuff started disappearing. Dad's truck popped up on Facebook Marketplace. Mom's SUV got traded in at a used lot. Megan's luxury sedan, the one I helped her lease, got repossessed when she stopped paying. She posted a pity rant about it online, claiming financial hardship. 3 people tagged me asking if I knew about it. I didn't respond. Let people connect their own dots. Megan made one last attempt. She showed up at my office building. Security called up. "Miss Brennan, there's a Megan Brennan down here demanding to see you. Claims she's your sister. Tell her I'm not available and she's not authorized to be on company property," I said. "She's causing a scene, ma'am. Then call the police and have her removed." They did. I watched from my window as 2 officers walked her out while she screamed like she was being dragged off stage. My boss Grant walked by and raised an eyebrow. "Friend of yours?" he asked. "Sister," I said. "Ah, family?" "Not anymore." The whole office got an email that afternoon about increased security. After that, I became something of a building legend, not in the inspiring way, but in the "you'll never believe what I heard in the break room" way. Then Tyler told me the house had officially sold. After paying off the mortgage, realtor fees, and the mountain of debt they'd racked up, my parents walked away with about $40,000. They sold most of their furniture, jewelry, anything they could get cash for. Mom's wedding ring went to a pawn shop. Dad's entire fishing gear collection got sold in a yard sale. 30 years of stuff gone. They moved into a dingy two-bedroom apartment in a rough part of town. Tyler sent pictures: bare walls, mismatched Goodwill furniture, a tiny kitchen. He didn't have to say it. Asterisk, this is their life without you. Asterisk, Megan moved in with her boyfriend, who apparently wasn't thrilled about it, judging by the screaming matches Tyler overheard whenever he swung by to pick up his things. Turns out nobody wants a broke, entitled houseguest with a martyr complex. All told, between the house sale and selling their belongings, they scraped together $89,000. They wired it to me with a note from Dad. "This is all we have. Hope you're proud of yourself." And honestly, I was. But I also knew it wasn't anywhere near the $375,000 they owed me. Tom sent another letter laying out their remaining options: payment plan, wage garnishment, selling more belongings, but honestly, I'd already made my point. He reminded me that chasing the entire amount could take years in court, and probably wouldn't be worth the toll on my sanity. Sometimes, he said, the real victory is getting your life back, not recouping every last dollar. And he was right. I'd gotten my name off their mortgage, regained a decent chunk of what I'd lost, and built a wall around my future that nobody could sneak through again. I figured that was enough. Turns out life had one last curveball ready for me. 3 months after everything blew up, I had started settling into this quiet new chapter. Work was going incredibly well. I was hitting every target, getting noticed by upper management, actually enjoying my job without my family's chaos lurking in the back of my mind. Grant even nominated me for a leadership award. Everything felt steady. And then somehow, without me expecting it or even wanting it at first, love slipped into my life like it had been waiting patiently for the dust to settle. His name was Felix. We met at the gym, a place that had become my safe zone. Just me, my music, and the sound of weights thudding against rubber mats. I wasn't looking for anything serious, but Felix had this calm, grounded energy that cut right through the noise. He wasn't showy or trying to act impressive. Just a kind smile, an easy laugh, and these warm, steady eyes that made you feel seen instead of analyzed. We met while spotting each other at the squat rack, classic gym meet cute. He joked that half the people in there looked like they were auditioning for some Hollywood action flick, and I laughed harder than I had in months. After that, we kept crossing paths at the same hours, trading quiet nods, sharing machines, falling into this easy rhythm without even realizing it. Eventually he asked if I wanted to grab coffee after a workout, and I said yes. That coffee turned into a long conversation about work, travel, and how neither of us liked big family gatherings. When he asked about mine, I hesitated before admitting I was taking space from them. He didn't press. He just nodded and said, "Sometimes peace costs distance." And that simple line stuck with me. Over the next weeks, Felix became part of my routine: dinners after work, quiet walks around the park near my place, little pockets of calm I didn't know I needed. He wasn't afraid of silence. He made it feel comfortable. Being around him felt like my whole nervous system finally got permission to breathe after years of being on high alert. One night we were sitting by the lake with the city lights dancing across the water when he said, "You know, you talk a lot about your goals and your plans, but not about what you want for yourself." I blinked at him, confused. "Isn't that the same thing?" He smiled slightly. "Those are what you do, not who you are." It was simple, but it hit me like a punch. My whole identity had been tied up in fixing other people's chaos and funding everyone else's comfort that I barely knew what wanting something for myself even looked like. He didn't ask me to answer, just brushed his thumb over my hand like he was telling me it was okay not to have everything figured out. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely safe. We didn't rush anything. No dramatic confessions or whirlwind romance. Just easy mornings at the cafe, late-night phone calls that ended with laughter, gym competitions over push-ups, him teasing me about my hyper-organized playlists, me teasing him for constantly forgetting his water bottle. Ordinary things that felt extraordinary because they were mine. Months passed quietly. The court case wrapped with little fanfare. The investigation into Megan's attempted fraud fizzled after she lawyered up and blamed a misunderstanding, but I didn't care. The noise had finally faded. My parents stopped reaching out entirely. Megan locked down her social media. Tyler moved west for grad school, and we still talked every week. My world was finally calm. One Sunday, Felix asked me to join him for brunch with his sister and her kids. I was nervous. Family settings had become a minefield for me, but his sister was warm and welcoming, And her kids were chaos in the most joyful way. At one point Felix caught me watching them and whispered, "You look like you missed something." I shook my head. "No. I think I'm realizing what it's supposed to look like." He squeezed my hand under the table and said, "Maybe that's the start of something better." That afternoon we walked slowly back to my apartment, the sunlight stretching long across the street. Outside my door he stopped, that familiar gentle look in his eyes. "You've done a lot of hard things, Nora," he said. "You should be proud." I swallowed past a lump in my throat. "I am. I think I finally am." He leaned in and kissed me, soft and warm, and for a moment everything, the guilt trips, the shouting, the years of being taken for granted, felt like it belonged to someone else's life. I'd spent so long surviving my family that I'd forgotten what it felt like to simply live. But standing there with Felix's hand holding mine, I realized I was finally doing just that. 6 months later, I was on my balcony with a mug of coffee when my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Hey, just wanted you to know Dad's working again. Night shifts at the warehouse. Mom's cleaning houses. They're different. Not good, not bad. Just quieter. Thought you'd want to know." I typed back, "Thanks. I hope they find peace." He sent a single heart emoji, and somehow that felt like closure. Felix stepped outside and wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Work today?" he asked. "Not till noon," I said. "Good," he grinned. "Then you're coming with me." "Where?" "It's a surprise," he said. "And no, it's not the gym." I laughed and set my mug down. "Lead the way." He drove us to a quiet hiking trail about an hour away. The air smelled like pine and damp earth, the path winding upward through tall trees. At the top, a lookout stretched across miles of forest and sky. Felix stood beside me, wind ruffling his hair. "You never told me what you did with the money," he said. "What money?" I teased. "The money you got back from the house." I shrugged. "I didn't do anything with it. It's just sitting there." He nodded. "Good. Don't spend it trying to fill old spaces. Wait for something that builds new ones." I looked at him, the sunlight catching in his steady eyes. "You always talk like you're quoting some deep philosophy book." "Maybe I am," he said, smiling. "Or maybe I just like who you're becoming." I laughed softly and leaned into him, the whole world stretching wide and bright beyond us. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like someone's daughter or someone's safety net or someone's fixer. I was just Nora, standing on a mountain with a man who reminded me that peace isn't something you find. It's something you choose. And I was finally choosing it.